Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Daniel Kaplan here. So in this video, I'm going to be doing a deep dive on actually choosing the right market to wholesale in. So for context, I'm one of the founders of No Accent Callers. We have launched anywhere from 250 to 300 campaigns over the last 2.5 years, and I personally have been wholesaling for about 4 years now, and I own about 103 units, and that is all across the US. None of those are in my backyard. So, for context, one of the biggest issues that I see with people when they are choosing their market is it is a very emotional based decision, right? People tend to not choose the market based on logic. Instead, they'll choose a market that one, maybe it's in their backyard, or two, maybe they think they know the market best because they have a buddy who lives in the market. And that is the furthest thing from the case. This is one of the biggest and most important decisions that you need to make when you are starting up in wholesaling or just buying real estate in general, because you can only be as good as the market you are operating in. If you choose the wrong market, you are going to set yourself up for failure. And there are a bunch of facets that kind of encompass how to determine the right market, and there's a bunch of different buckets that this can fall in. So we're going to be diving into kind of what that looks like. So there are five main variables that really determine what kind of market you should choose. The first one is I still don't know if this is necessarily like that important, but if you are for buying real estate, this is massively important. For wholesaling, I would say it's a little bit important, but population and net migration. So pretty much, is the market growing or is it not growing, right? So net migration is the difference of how many people are entering the market versus how many people are leaving the market. You want to be in a positive net migration market. That means people are actually wanting to buy assets and want to transact in this market. And I would say probably the most important variable if you are wholesaling is the median home price. And the biggest mistake that I see people make is they will go in either one, too cheap of markets or two, too expensive of markets. When you get in the markets that are, let's say, the median home price is 500 grand plus, you are going against very fierce competition, right? There are deals that are not transacting as much. Maybe you're competing against guys who are spending 100 grand a month on marketing. When you're in these very expensive markets, it is really, really challenging because though you will probably have a higher assignment fee, these businesses are fine having a cost per contract of 7 to 10 grand. So if you're a smaller fish and you are only allocating anywhere from 1 to 5 grand a month in marketing, you cannot be in a higher end market. Now, the other side of that coin is people tend to go for super cheap markets. So think of like your Detroit, Michigans, or your Birmingham, Alabamas. And though these markets are great, I actually own in Birmingham. The challenge is with such cheap properties, you need to buy these properties at such an insane basis. So, for example, in Birmingham, properties might be worth anywhere from 80 to 100 grand, but all of these buyers, they want to buy at 30 to 40 grand. So, you need to buy these deals very, very deep. But the challenge with that too is you're also going to be making smaller fees, right? You can't go and tack on a 20 or 30 grand assignment fee because these properties are so cheap in value. The math just does not make sense. And this is especially important if you're doing novations, which I recommend. This should be something that everyone has in their back pocket, is how much inventory is trading, and then also what is the average days on market. This is pretty much going to tell you, are assets even transacting here? Are there deals that are actually happening? So for example, if your median days on market is 270 days, that means there are no buyers who are buying in this market. Properties are just sitting there, and consequently, you are not going to sell your deals. So I would say these are probably one of the two most important ones is make sure that you are in that sweet spot. And what I consider the sweet spot is anywhere from like 150 to I would say a 300 grand median home price. That is where you want to be. So point number one, be in a market that's actually growing. Point number two is you want that median home price to be about 150 to 350, and then make sure assets are transacting. Usually, like if it's a market and the average days on market is over 150 days, that is likely not a good market to be in. And then one of the very overlooked things is competition. Everybody likes to say real estate is a very collaborative industry, but in the game of transactions and wholesaling, it is player versus player, right? You are always going to be competing against the other guys in the market who are spending more money than you or more savvy than you. So when you are analyzing the market to be in, look at your competition, right? The last thing that you want to compete against is a fucking killer who's spending 300 grand a month in marketing while you are paying 1.5K a month for cold callers. That is a battle that you are going to lose every single time. So this is something people overlook is understand the market. You do not want to be in Seattle. You do not want to be in Miami, Florida. You don't want to be in Los Angeles. These are the hottest markets in the United States. and consequently the most fierce competition. And if you are one, not that seasoned, and two, not that well capitalized, you are going to lose every single time. And I would say not as important, but something to consider is equity concentration. If you're in a market where assets are appreciating, the beauty is these owners tend to have more equity. And the beauty with them having more equity is you can actually be able to offer at a lower basis. Versus if you're in a market where the assets are depreciating, unfortunately, you might be dealing with a lot of guys who are underwater. Now, like I said, one of the biggest things is this competition. It is player versus player. And that is why it is so important to understand the market that you're operating and understand who are the fiercest competitors, but also just look at that market landscape, right? If you're in Miami, if you're in Los Angeles, if you're in Phoenix, if you're in Seattle, these are extremely competitive markets, and the person who is able to pay the most money for a contract is going to win. So I know guys who are spending 600 grand a month on marketing. They're doing mailers, they do billboards, they have radio ads, they have cold callers, they're doing texting, they're doing PPC, they're doing meta ads. They're doing every single channel that you could possibly fucking do. And if you are competing against that person with your 2 grand marketing budget, you are going to lose. So understand your competition, understand the market you're operating in, because this one thing right here, regardless of how good you are at sales, this could kill everything for you. And like I said, not all channels work in every market. So there are certain markets that are more conducive for certain marketing channels. So for example, PPC and Google Ads, and even Meta Ads in general, that does not convert well in lower ticket markets. When you're in a market where the average home price is 80 or 100 grand, usually your best bet is cold calling or SMS. But when you're going to these higher ticket markets, like if you do want to venture into Seattle or Miami or Phoenix, your best bet is usually PPC, Meta, direct mail. So something to consider is certain markets are not that great with certain marketing channels. So cold calling does not work in every single market. SMS does not work in every single market. Direct mail does not. It's very important to understand the kind of market that you are in, and consequently you want to reverse engineer what marketing channels are best for that market. So like I said, kind of here's like the framework, the TLDR of how you can actually choose the right market that will set you up for success. And it's very simple. Do not overthink this. Do not make an emotional decision. So step 1 is be in a market that's actually growing, right? Make sure it's a market people actually want to be in. Step 2 is that sweet spot for the median home price. Make sure you're in that range of 150 to 350. Step 3 is look at the days on the market, right? Are assets even trading in this market? Look at the competition, see how fierce it is, and then determine which marketing channel is best. And if you put all these together, you will set yourself up for success, and you will hopefully actually land some deals. But again, for context, I've launched over 250 campaigns. I have my own wholesale business. I have bought real estate. I do everything out of market. I'm over in Chicago. I promise you, just follow these steps and you will be golden when you start your marketing.